May 1944. The Pacific Theater of World War II. A single American destroyer escort is about to write one of the most extraordinary chapters in naval warfare history. This is the story of the USS England and her hunt for the silent killers beneath the waves. In just 12 days, this ship would accomplish what seemed impossible. 6 Japanese submarines, 6 deadly encounters, 6 victories. To understand this achievement, we must first understand the ship, her crew, and the desperate struggle unfolding in the Pacific. The USS England, designated DE-635, was a Buckley-class destroyer escort. She was commissioned in December 1943 at the Bethlehem Steel Shipyard in San Francisco, named after Ensign John Charles England, a sailor who died heroically at Pearl Harbor. Destroyer escorts were smaller and less glamorous than their full-size destroyer cousins. They were built for one primary mission: hunting submarines. At 306 feet long and displacing 1,400 tons, the England was nimble and deadly. Her armament included 3-inch guns, anti-aircraft weapons, and depth charges. But her most important weapon was the Hedgehog, a forward-throwing anti-submarine mortar. The Hedgehog fired 24 projectiles in an elliptical pattern ahead of the ship. Unlike depth charges that exploded at preset depths, Hedgehog projectiles only detonated on contact. This meant that if you heard an explosion, you knew you had hit your target. The England's commanding officer was Lieutenant Commander Walton Pendleton. A graduate of the Naval Academy, Pendleton was calm, methodical, and thorough. He drilled his crew relentlessly in anti-submarine tactics. By May 1944, the England had been operating in the Pacific for several months. She had participated in convoy escort duties and had already engaged enemy submarines. But nothing in her brief career had prepared the crew for what was coming. To understand the England's mission, we need to examine the broader strategic situation. By early 1944, American forces were advancing across the Pacific. The Solomon Islands campaign had been successful, and forces were preparing to invade the Marianas. The Japanese Imperial Navy knew they were losing the submarine war. American anti-submarine warfare had become devastatingly effective. Advanced radar, sonar, code-breaking, and tactics were taking a terrible toll. In response, the Japanese established a scouting line of submarines. These submarines were positioned to monitor American fleet movements and provide early warning. The line stretched from the Solomon Islands north toward the Japanese stronghold at Truk. American intelligence, through code-breaking operations, learned of this submarine deployment. They knew approximately where the Japanese submarines would be stationed. This intelligence advantage would prove crucial in the coming days. On May 18, 1944, the England departed Purvis Bay in the Solomon Islands. She was part of a hunter-killer group that included 2 other destroyer escorts. The USS George and the USS Raby sailed alongside England. Their mission was clear: find and destroy the Japanese submarine picket line. The task group commander was aboard the USS George under Commander Hamilton Haynes. The ships headed north, following intelligence reports about submarine positions. They steamed through calm tropical waters, their sonar operators listening intently. Every man knew they were entering a hunting ground where predator and prey were hard to distinguish. The first contact came on May 19th, just 1 day after departure. The England's sonar detected a suspicious contact near Bougainville Island. The target was the Japanese submarine I-16, a large fleet submarine. Built in 1940, the I-16 displaced over 2,000 tons and carried a crew of nearly 100 men. She had participated in the Pearl Harbor attack, launching a midget submarine. She had survived 3 years of war. Her luck was about to run out. Lieutenant Commander Pendleton brought the England into attack position. The sonar operators called out bearings and ranges as the submarine tried to evade. At a range of 200 yards, Pendleton ordered the Hedgehog fired. 24 projectiles arced through the air and splashed into the sea ahead of the ship. Seconds passed, the crew held their breath. Then came the unmistakable sound: multiple explosions underwater. The Hedgehog had found its mark. The I-16 had been struck. Debris began surfacing. Oil slicks spread across the water. There were no survivors. 1 Japanese submarine destroyed. But this was just the beginning. After the successful attack on I-16, the hunter-killer group continued their patrol. Intelligence indicated there were more submarines in the area, strung out along the picket line. The 3 destroyer escorts swept northward, their sonar pinging constantly. Aboard the England, the crew was elated but knew their work had only started. The ocean is vast, and finding a submarine is like searching for a needle in a haystack. A submarine running submerged is nearly invisible, a silent ghost beneath the waves. But the Americans had advantages. Radar could detect surface submarines at night, sonar could track them underwater, and most importantly, they knew where to look. On May 22nd, 3 days after sinking I-16, another contact was made. This time the target was identified as the submarine RO-106. The RO-class submarines were smaller than the I-class boats. RO-106 displaced about 700 tons and carried a complement of 38 men. She had been commissioned in 1943 and was relatively new to the Japanese submarine fleet, but youth and inexperience would not save her from what was coming. The initial sonar contact came during a routine search pattern. The England's operators detected the distinctive echo of a submerged submarine. Commander Haynes ordered the England to take the lead in the attack. Pendleton maneuvered his ship into position, tracking the submarine's movements. The Japanese submarine commander knew he had been detected and began evasive maneuvers. He changed depth, altered course, and tried to throw off the pursuing destroyer escort. But the England's crew was well trained and relentless. They maintained sonar contact and calculated the submarine's position with precision. Pendleton ordered another Hedgehog attack. Once again, the projectiles flew. And once again, the sound of underwater explosions confirmed a direct hit. RO-106 was destroyed 2 submarines in 3 days. The England was proving herself to be an exceptionally deadly submarine hunter. Word began to spread through the American naval forces in the Pacific. A destroyer escort was systematically dismantling the Japanese submarine picket line, but there was no time to celebrate. Intelligence indicated more targets ahead. The hunter-killer group pressed on, pushing further north into dangerous waters. The pace of operations was exhausting. Submarine hunting requires constant vigilance. Sonar operators listened for hours at a time, their ears straining for the faintest echo. Bridge watch standers scanned the horizon day and night for periscopes or surfaced submarines. The entire crew operated on adrenaline and determination. Sleep came in short intervals. Meals were eaten quickly at battle stations. Every man knew that any moment could bring another contact, another battle. On May 23rd, the very next day, the England struck again. The target was RO-104, another submarine from the same class as their previous victim. RO-104 had been stationed further north along the picket line. She had no way of knowing that 2 of her sister submarines had already been destroyed. Japanese submarine communications were sparse, designed to maintain radio silence. This operational security meant submarines operated in isolation, unaware of the danger. When RO-104 was detected by the England's sonar, the crew went to battle stations immediately. By now they had developed a smooth, efficient routine for submarine attacks. Every crew member knew his role. Communication was crisp and professional. Lieutenant Commander Pendleton had become highly skilled at interpreting sonar data. He could visualize the 3-dimensional battle space beneath his ship. He understood submarine tactics and could anticipate evasive maneuvers. The attack on RO-104 followed the same pattern as the previous engagements. Track the target, close to attack range, fire the Hedgehog. The result was identical. Explosions, debris, oil slick. 3 submarines destroyed in 5 days. The England was becoming legendary. At this point, higher command was taking notice of the England's extraordinary success. Messages of congratulation began arriving from fleet commanders. But there was also concern. The rapid succession of kills was almost unbelievable. Some staff officers wondered if the England was overclaiming or misidentifying targets. In naval warfare, confirmation of kills could be difficult, especially with submarines. A submarine could be damaged and escape, only to sink later far from the battle site. But the England's claims were solid. The Hedgehog's contact detonation feature provided confirmation. The debris and oil slicks were documented. The kills were real. After 3 successful engagements, the hunter-killer group continued their sweep. Intelligence indicated at least 3 more submarines remained on the picket line. The Japanese High Command had not yet realized their submarine screen was being systematically destroyed. They still expected their submarines to report American fleet movements. This lack of awareness would cost them dearly. On May 24th, the England found her 4th victim. The target was RO-116, yet another submarine on the picket line. By now, the pattern was becoming almost routine, though each attack was still dangerous. Submarines were not helpless prey. They carried torpedoes and could fight back. A lucky torpedo shot could send a destroyer escort to the bottom. But the advantage lay with the surface ships, especially when they had good intelligence. The England knew where to look. The submarines did not know they were being hunted. The engagement with RO-116 was notable for the submarine commander's aggressive tactics. Upon detecting the approaching destroyer escorts, he chose to fight rather than evade. He maneuvered for a torpedo attack, hoping to damage or sink one of his pursuers. This aggressive response nearly succeeded. Torpedoes were detected in the water. The England executed emergency maneuvers to avoid the incoming weapons. The torpedoes missed, passing harmlessly by the maneuvering destroyer escort. Now it was the England's turn, with the submarine's position clearly revealed by the torpedo attack. Pendleton brought his ship around for a counterattack with the Hedgehog. The projectiles flew true. Multiple explosions followed. RO-116 was destroyed. 4 submarines in 6 days. The crew of the England was exhausted but exhilarated. They were making history, though they could scarcely believe it themselves. In the Combat Information Center, tally marks on a bulkhead tracked their victories. 4 enemy submarines destroyed. How many more could they find? At this point, the USS George and USS Raby had yet to score any kills. Commander Haynes decided to give them opportunities to attack the next contact. It was only fair to share the glory and give other crews combat experience. But fate had other plans. The England's incredible streak was not yet over. On May 26, 2 days after destroying RO-116, another submarine was detected. This was RO-108, positioned further north on the increasingly depleted picket line. Commander Haynes, true to his word, assigned the USS George to make the first attack. The George moved in and fired her Hedgehog. The projectiles splashed into the water. Silence. No explosions. The attack had missed. The George made a second approach and fired again. Once more, no explosions. The submarine was proving elusive, using the ocean's thermal layers to hide. Thermal layers in the ocean could reflect or refract sonar beams, creating false echoes. After the George's unsuccessful attempts, the USS Raby was given a chance. She maneuvered into attack position and launched her own Hedgehog salvo. Again, no explosions. The submarine had successfully evaded 3 attacks. Now Commander Haynes reluctantly turned to the England. If any ship could finish this stubborn target, it was Pendleton and his crew. The England moved into position, her sonar operators picking up the contact. Pendleton studied the sonar data carefully, analyzing the submarine's depth and course. He calculated the optimal firing position and closed to attack range. The Hedgehog fired. 24 projectiles arced through the air. Moments later, the distinctive sound of underwater explosions. RO-108 was destroyed. The England had struck again. 5 submarines destroyed in 8 days. The record was becoming almost absurd. The crews of the George and Raby congratulated the England, though with some envy. How did one ship achieve such extraordinary success? The answer lay in a combination of factors: excellent training and crew cohesion, outstanding leadership from Lieutenant Commander Pendleton, superior intelligence that told them where to look, and perhaps a measure of good luck. But luck favors the prepared, and the England was supremely prepared. After destroying 5 submarines, the hunter-killer group received new intelligence. 1 more submarine remained on the picket line, the last link in the chain. This final target was RO-105, stationed at the northern end of the line. By now, the Japanese must have realized something was wrong. 5 submarines had failed to report. Radio silence had become absolute silence. But it was too late to warn RO-105. She remained on station unaware. The 3 destroyer escorts steamed toward the last known position. Tension aboard the England was high. Could they make it 6 in a row? On May 31st, 12 days after their first kill, contact was made with RO-105. Commander Haynes once again offered the other ships first chance at the target. The USS George and USS Raby made multiple attack runs, but none were successful. The submarine was deep, using every trick to evade detection and attack. Finally, inevitably, the England was called in to finish the job. Pendleton brought his ship into position one more time. The crew was tired but focused. This could be their 6th kill in less than 2 weeks. The sonar contact was solid. The target's position was clear. Pendleton gave the order. The Hedgehog fired its final salvo of the patrol. The projectiles splashed into the water ahead of the ship. And then the sound every submariner dreads: multiple explosions deep underwater. RO-105 had been hit. The submarine was destroyed. 6 submarines, 12 days, 1 destroyer escort. The USS England had accomplished something unprecedented in naval warfare. When news of the England's achievement reached higher command, the reaction was mixed. Congratulations poured in from across the Pacific Fleet. Admiral Ernest King, Commander-in-Chief of the U.S. Fleet, sent a personal message. He reportedly said there would always be an England in the United States Navy. Admiral William Halsey, commander of the Third Fleet, praised the achievement as well. The England's crew became instant celebrities within the naval community. But there was also a note of caution from some quarters. Success in warfare can breed overconfidence. The England had been lucky. The Japanese submarine force, while declining, was still dangerous. Future engagements might not be so one-sided. For the crew of the England, the immediate aftermath was a period of recovery. They returned to port for rest, resupply, and refitting. The ship needed maintenance after the intensive operations. The crew needed rest after weeks of constant vigilance and combat. But they also needed to process what they had accomplished. They had destroyed 6 enemy submarines, killing hundreds of Japanese sailors. In war, there is little time for reflection on such matters. The enemy had been trying to kill them. They had succeeded in killing the enemy first. That was the grim arithmetic of naval warfare in the Pacific. To understand the magnitude of the England's achievement, we need context. Submarine warfare in World War II was a deadly game of cat and mouse. Submarines were stealthy predators, capable of sinking ships many times their size. But they were also vulnerable when detected, unable to outrun surface ships. Most anti-submarine warfare operations resulted in frustration rather than success. Sonar contacts could be false. Attacks often missed their targets. The ocean was vast and submarines were small needles in enormous haystacks. A typical destroyer escort might spend months on patrol without sinking a single submarine. Some ships served throughout the entire war without a confirmed submarine kill. The England destroyed 6 submarines in less than 2 weeks. This achievement represented more than just lucky encounters. It demonstrated the effectiveness of integrated anti-submarine warfare. Intelligence from code-breaking provided the strategic advantage. American cryptanalysts had broken Japanese naval codes years earlier. This allowed planners to know where Japanese submarines would be deployed. Technology in the form of sonar in the Hedgehog provided tactical advantages. Modern sonar could detect submarines at significant ranges in favorable conditions. The Hedgehog's forward-throwing capability meant ships could attack without losing sonar contact. Training and leadership completed the equation. Lieutenant Commander Pendleton and his crew had drilled extensively in anti-submarine tactics. They knew their equipment intimately and could operate efficiently under pressure. When opportunity presented itself, they were ready to exploit it. The destruction of the Japanese submarine picket line had strategic implications. The Japanese High Command lost their early warning system for American fleet movements. This blindness came at a critical time in the Pacific War. American forces were preparing major operations in the Marianas Islands. The invasion of Saipan would begin just 2 weeks after the England's final kill. Without their submarine scouts, the Japanese were caught off guard by the scale of American operations. The Battle of the Philippine Sea followed, resulting in a devastating defeat for Japanese naval aviation. While the England's actions were not solely responsible for these outcomes, they contributed to the overall degradation of Japanese naval capabilities. Every submarine destroyed was one less threat to American operations. Every Japanese sailor killed was one less experienced operator. The cumulative effect of such losses was significant. After her remarkable patrol in May 1944, the USS England continued to serve. She participated in additional anti-submarine operations throughout the Pacific. In October 1944, she was involved in operations supporting the invasion of Leyte in the Philippines. During this operation, she encountered a new threat: kamikaze aircraft. On October 26, while operating off Leyte, the England came under kamikaze attack. A Japanese aircraft dove through anti-aircraft fire and struck the ship. The impact and explosion killed 37 crew members and wounded 25 others. The England was severely damaged but remained afloat. She was towed to safety and eventually made her way to a repair facility. The damage was extensive and repairs took several months. By the time the England was fully repaired, the war was nearing its end. She returned to service but saw no further combat action. After Japan's surrender in August 1945, the England participated in occupation duties. She helped patrol Japanese waters during the immediate post-war period. In October 1945, Just over a year after the kamikaze attack, the England returned to the United States. She was decommissioned in November 1946 as the Navy rapidly downsized after the war. The ship was placed in reserve, part of the mothball fleet maintained for potential future use. She would never return to active service. In 1962, the USS England was sold for scrap and broken up. Her physical existence ended, but her legacy endured. The crew members who served aboard the England during her famous patrol dispersed after the war. Most returned to civilian life carrying memories of their extraordinary service. Lieutenant Commander Walton Pendleton continued his naval career. He was promoted and served in various capacities before eventually retiring. Many of the England's crew stayed in touch over the years, forming reunion associations. They shared a bond forged in combat, a connection that lasted lifetimes. The story of the USS England became a standard case study in naval warfare. It was taught at the Naval War College and naval academies around the world. The lessons learned from the England's patrol influenced anti-submarine doctrine for decades. The importance of intelligence, technology, training, and leadership was reinforced. Modern anti-submarine warfare still relies on these fundamental principles. Admiral Ernest King's promise that there would always be an England in the Navy was kept. In 1963, shortly after the original USS England was scrapped, a new ship bore the name. USS England DLG-22 was a guided missile destroyer leader. This second England served with distinction during the Cold War. She participated in operations off Vietnam and conducted numerous patrols. The second England was decommissioned in 1994 after 3 decades of service. In 2004, a third USS England entered service. The USS England DDG-96 is an Arleigh Burke-class guided missile destroyer. This modern warship carries on the proud tradition established in 1944. She is equipped with the most advanced anti-submarine warfare systems in the world. The third England remains in active service today, continuing the legacy. The story of the original USS England resonates because it exemplifies excellence under pressure. In a war filled with heroic actions and remarkable achievements, the England's 12-day patrol stands out as something truly exceptional. It demonstrates what is possible when preparation meets opportunity. When skilled professionals are given the tools and information they need to succeed, the record of 6 submarines destroyed in 12 days has never been equaled. Not by any ship in any navy before or since. It remains a singular achievement in the annals of naval warfare. But beyond the numbers and the record, the story is ultimately about people. It's about the young men who crewed a small destroyer escort in the Pacific. Sailors from all walks of American life, brought together by war. They trained hard, worked together, and when the moment came, they excelled. Each man played a role. The sonar operators who detected the submarines. The weapons crews who loaded and fired the Hedgehog. The engineers who kept the ship running at peak performance. The bridge watch standers who maintained vigilance day and night. And the leadership that coordinated all these efforts into a cohesive fighting unit. The USS England was not just a ship. She was a team that achieved something remarkable through skill, determination, and courage. The Japanese submariners who died fighting the England were also professionals. They served their country as they saw fit, following orders and doing their duty. The submarine service of any navy attracts brave men willing to accept great risks. The crews of I-16, RO-106, RO-104, RO-116, RO-108, and RO-105. They went to sea knowing the dangers, knowing many submarines never returned. They fought with the weapons and tactics available to them, but they faced an opponent who held every advantage. Better intelligence, superior technology, more effective tactics. And in Lieutenant Commander Pendleton and the USS England, they encountered perfection. War is a tragedy, and the destruction of 6 submarines meant hundreds of lives lost. But in the context of World War II, such losses were part of the grim calculus. Both sides prosecuted the war with determination, seeking victory at great cost. The England's success contributed to the Allied victory. It helped ensure that American operations could proceed with reduced submarine threat. Every Japanese submarine destroyed meant safer passage for Allied convoys and task forces. It meant fewer opportunities for the enemy to disrupt operations. In this way, the England's actions saved Allied lives. Looking back from the perspective of decades, the England's patrol represents a moment of clarity in war. A clear mission executed with precision. Find the enemy submarines, destroy them, complete the mission. No ambiguity, no uncertainty about objectives. Just a straightforward combat operation carried out with extraordinary success. The lessons from the England's patrol extend beyond naval warfare. They speak to the importance of preparation in any endeavor. The England's crew didn't become excellent during those 12 days. They were already excellent when the patrol began. Months of training and preparation had made them ready. When opportunity presented itself, they were positioned to seize it. This principle applies in countless situations beyond combat. Success often comes to those who have prepared thoroughly, who have developed their skills and built effective teams, who are ready when the critical moment arrives. The England story also highlights the value of good leadership. Lieutenant Commander Pendleton was not a flamboyant or charismatic figure. He was a professional officer who took his responsibilities seriously. He trained his crew thoroughly and led by example. He made sound tactical decisions under pressure. He created an environment where his crew could perform at their best. This type of leadership, quiet and competent, often produces the best results. Technology also played a crucial role in the England's success. The Hedgehog was a technological innovation that provided a significant advantage. Its forward-throwing capability and contact detonation made it more effective than conventional depth charges. But technology alone was not sufficient. The George and the Raby had the same Hedgehog system, but they could not replicate the England's success. Technology must be combined with skill and tactics to be effective. The England's crew knew how to use their weapons to maximum advantage. They understood the capabilities and limitations of their systems. They employed sound tactics based on this understanding. Intelligence was perhaps the most critical factor in the England's success. Without the code-breaking efforts that revealed the submarine positions, the hunter-killer group would have been searching blindly across thousands of square miles of ocean. Intelligence narrowed the search area to specific locations. This allowed the England to find targets that would otherwise have remained hidden. The value of good intelligence cannot be overstated. In warfare, business, or any competitive endeavor, information is power. Those who possess superior information enjoy significant advantages. The combination of all these factors produced the England's remarkable results. Intelligence provided the strategic advantage. Technology provided the tactical advantage. Training ensured the crew could employ their technology effectively. Leadership coordinated all elements into a cohesive whole. Remove any one of these elements and the outcome might have been very different. The England's patrol occurred at a specific moment in the Pacific War. By May 1944, the tide had turned decisively in favor of the Allies. American industrial might had produced vast numbers of ships, aircraft, and weapons. American forces were advancing across the Pacific on multiple fronts. The Japanese were increasingly on the defensive, unable to replace their losses. The destruction of the submarine picket line was one small part of this larger campaign. But it was a part executed with exceptional skill and effectiveness. The England story reminds us that even in the largest conflicts, individual actions and small unit excellence can make a significant difference. One ship and her crew doing their job supremely well, contributing to the overall effort in a measurable and meaningful way. As we conclude this account of the USS England's remarkable patrol, we should remember that history is made by people, not abstract forces or inevitable trends, but by individuals making choices. The sailors aboard the England chose to train hard. They chose to do their jobs with excellence. When called upon to face danger, they chose to stand and fight. These choices, repeated by individuals throughout the crew, created collective excellence. The record stands today more than 80 years later. 6 submarines destroyed by one ship in 12 days. It is a record that may never be equaled. Not because modern ships lack the capability, but because the specific circumstances that allowed for such a concentration of targets will likely never recur. Submarine warfare has changed dramatically since World War II. Modern submarines are nuclear-powered, capable of staying submerged for months. They are far more capable than their World War II predecessors. But they are also far more expensive and are deployed in much smaller numbers. The massed submarine deployments of World War II are a thing of the past. So the England's record stands not just as a high mark, but as a unique historical moment, a convergence of circumstances that produced an extraordinary result. The men who served aboard the USS England in May 1944 were ordinary Americans. They came from farms and cities, from all regions of the country. Some were career sailors, but most were wartime volunteers or draftees. They represented a cross-section of American society. What made them extraordinary was not their background, but their performance. When given proper training, effective leadership, and the right tools. These ordinary men accomplished extraordinary things. This is perhaps the most important lesson from the England story. Excellence is not reserved for the elite or the specially gifted. It is achievable by anyone willing to prepare, practice, and perform. The USS England and her crew demonstrated this principle in the most demanding environment imaginable, combat at sea against a determined enemy. Today, when we honor the memory of the USS England and her crew, we honor not just a combat record, but the human qualities that made it possible: courage, discipline, teamwork, excellence. These timeless virtues remain relevant in any age. The physical ship may be long gone, broken up for scrap decades ago. Most of the crew members have now passed away. But the story endures, passed down through naval history. It endures because it represents something important, a moment when everything came together perfectly, when preparation met opportunity and produced remarkable results. When one destroyer escort sailing the vast Pacific accomplished a feat that amazed contemporaries and continues to impress today. 6 submarines, 12 days, 1 ship. The story of the USS England D-635, a small ship that cast a long shadow across naval history. In the annals of anti-submarine warfare, no ship has matched her record. In the history of the United States Navy, few ships have accomplished so much in so short a time. The USS England stands as a testament to what is possible when skilled professionals are given a clear mission and the means to accomplish it. Her story deserves to be remembered and retold, not as a tale of glory or adventure, though elements of both are present, but as an example of excellence in execution, of a job done supremely well under difficult circumstances. As long as navies sail and submarines dive, the name USS England will be remembered. As long as people study warfare and leadership, the lessons of her remarkable patrol will remain relevant. This is the legacy of one destroyer escort and her crew, who in May 1944, during 12 extraordinary days, wrote a chapter in naval history that has never been surpassed. The USS England, 6 submarines, 12 days, an achievement for the ages. May her crew rest in peace and may their story never be forgotten. This concludes the story of when one destroyer sank 6 submarines in 2 weeks. The remarkable tale of the USS England and her gallant crew,